So after putting engines in this car 4 different times now, I've run into a few bad products over the years, and I want you guys to be aware of them, and I'm going to share them all with you. Some of these products might work just fine for some of you guys, but these are things that I ended up not using or having to buy another part for. So I'm doing a 3-part series. This is part 1, and I'm doing just 3,800 parts for this video. Stay tuned to the end. I have a big bad product to talk about. Let's jump in. Look at all of these bad products. So I had all of these sitting within arm's reach of me when I'd thought of making a video about this, and I just started adding and adding to this pile, and look at what it became. This is a Pro intake manifold gasket for a supercharged motor. What I noticed on this thing is how thin it is. And when I bolted this on the first time, first of all, it had some really bad plastic left over from the molding, rubber left over from the molding process that just stuck out into the water and the air passages. Well, that's not good for airflow. So I trimmed that all, I shaved that all down pretty good. But then I put it on and I seem to have some leaks out of the top of the motor from coolant. So out of these square holes here are the coolant passages. And so I was looking at it and I took it apart and I decided to just order a different gasket, and I ended up going with the OEM style. And I don't know if you can tell here, but this here is the OEM style gasket. And it is, here, let's stick this next to it. It is 3 or 4 times thicker than this Pro gasket. Some of you guys might say that what matters is the thickness around these seals, and I would agree, but it seemed to me that when I put the bolts on the intake manifold through this thing, that there wasn't enough thickness there, and the bolts actually bottomed out before they got tight with this gasket sandwiched in there. I can't explain why that would be and why Pro would make a product like this, but it's my experience and I think it's garbage. You're never supposed to reuse a crankshaft bolt. That's what this is. I don't have the rest of them, but you're not supposed to reuse a camshaft bolt or head bolts, rocker arm bolts, or flywheel bolts. So when you're done with those, please throw them away and buy brand new ones. Next on the list is the famous Arp Thread Sealer, the Teflon base or PFTE based stuff. Don't ever use this stuff. ARP recommends it in their instructions if you're installing head studs, but please don't use this. It pretty much guarantees a leak in a GM motor with ARP head studs in it. Instead, use a Permatex Ultra Black or Optimum Black gasket maker to seal up your head studs that protrude into water jackets. Going hand in hand with the ARP Thread Sealer is this Pft Thread Tape. I made a little bit video mentioned this a while ago, but this is not meant to seal head bolts in a car. Some people try it and apparently it works, but I'm pretty sure these are designed for NPT pipe. The head bolts on a 3800 are not NPT threads, so I don't know what the deal is with people using this. It's just not designed for it. And then some people even use that tape with a sealer as well, and you don't know how the sealant are interacting with this tape. So I just use that Permatex stuff. Next would be the fuel injector O-rings that came with my my Siemens fuel injectors, which these are the 80 pound fuel per hour fuel injectors. For some reason, some of the O-rings just leaked like crazy, so I had to go out to the store and buy an O-ring kit. And looking through the O-ring kit, for some reason the O-rings themselves even vary a tiny bit in size, so I just picked all the biggest looking ones to me in appearance, put them in, and it didn't leak anymore. The other thing about these Siemens Deca injectors is buy them from a source that you trust and that you know. If you buy an eBay one, you'll probably get a fake. If it doesn't have the Deca stamped on the side, it's a fake. 90% of the ones on eBay are fake. If they're not $200 for a set of 12 or so, or 16, then it's fake. Next up is these coolant elbows. These are plastic ones, and apparently on almost all older GM cars with a 3800 engine, these things are going to be cracked. Instead, you want to get aluminum ones to replace them. Next up, I want to talk about is these Chinese stainless steel exhaust headers. First up, I've got a friend with something similar to this, and the stainless steel on them rusts. I don't know how stainless rusts, but it does. Second thing is, this was a GTP exhaust system advertised on eBay, and it's direct from China. I knew that going into it. And when I got it, this crossover pipe didn't fit at all. I mean, it was a good 2 inches or something offset from where it needed to be in order to mate with the rest of the exhaust headers. I was willing to do that because they're so dang cheap, but I had to cut this crossover pipe in 3 different spots and re-weld it to clocks differently in order to get it to fit up correctly. So this was a $180 exhaust system, which is dang cheap, and you know what, it might be dang worth it too for a little bit of work like that, but just beware it won't fit when you buy it. So if you end up with an orange valve cover or gasket, I think you need to throw that away right away and get some different ones out of different material. Orange ones are bad, I believe. Get a gray or a black one. Let's get into some ZZP stuff. So I ordered some LS7 lifters from ZZP, and these showed up. And this is interesting. They have part numbers on them. It's probably not an OEM lifter. I don't know what it is, but this says 21NY20CIX. This one in particular did not pump up, and you can actually squeeze. You can see me squeezing it there still. I soaked this thing in oil for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it wouldn't pump up. And then I ended up taking a push rod and putting it in an oil bath and trying to pump on it for 15 or 20 minutes to try to pump oil inside here, and it will not hydraulically lock. So something might be wrong with it internally. I know you can take these apart and fix them that way, but I decided I'd just rather get a good working part. So thankfully ZZP was very nice to me, and they sent me a new free one. You know what? This might not even be a problem with these. I don't know exactly everything about how hydraulic lifters should be expected to perform out of the box, but I was more comfortable with one that hydraulically locked. I noticed it when I was measuring my push rod lengths. What's interesting is I ordered some Intense Racing LS7 lifters probably 3 years ago, and they have a different part number on them. I wonder if that's model or what, but it is a 150817C2X. So again, not all LS7 lifters are the same. So let's talk about ZZP push rods. So this is a push rod length checker, and by all means, this is a fabulous product. I recommend getting this, but the reason why I have this on here is because ZZP's instructions on their website are terrible for checking your push rod lengths on everything that they sell related to the valve train. So even on the lifter website or webpage, they have the same description of how to check your push rod length. Well, they describe a procedure, I think, that is better fit for adjustable rocker arms than what the 3800 comes with. So I bought some rocker arms for it. They're not adjustable, and their procedure doesn't really work on them. The length checker, all you have to do is bolt down your rocker arm, torque it to spec with this length checker in there and the lifter in there on the base circle of the camshaft, and then unthread this, okay? And when you unthread that all the way up until it hits the bottom of the rocker cup, that's your length that you need to measure, and then whatever you measure from that, and you go tip to tip on this push rod. You don't do that on other kind of push rods from different engines in some cases. But whatever length you get from that, you're supposed to add half of the lifter squish. Well, they don't talk about that at all in ZZP's instructions, and the lifter squish for an LS7 is not listed on their website, but it actually is 0.1 inches. Sorry, there's 0.2 inches total of travel on this lifter, and you want about half of that. You want the push rod to compress this travel about half of its distance, so that's about 0.1 inches of what you add to that length that you measure. And you know what? Maybe you can use the instructions that they provide on their website, but honestly they're kind of hard to follow, and if you don't know what you're doing, I just stay away from it completely. Sometimes when you fit everything up at the end of the day and you try to copy somebody's setup exactly, it's not going to fit the same that theirs did. I had to go slightly different belt sizes than the people who I followed their builds for. And even some brackets and stuff might line up slightly differently. Not all cradles, Fiero cradles are really the same. Not all Fieros are really the same. Not all 3800s are exactly the same either. So you might have to be aware of a little bit of custom work. So I love the wiring harness that I ended up buying. The only problem with that was I plugged it all in, and it seemed that one of the pins in this connector here, what is this, it's either my idle air control or my, one of the pins was actually not crimped. It was crimped to the insulation instead of to the wire, so the pin was bad and I didn't get a good signal on it. I ended up being able to find it very easily because of a diagnostic code, and I pulled the pin out and was able to re-crimp the pin back on there without any issue. It was very difficult to get the pin out without the right tool. But you know, when you have a handmade harness and there's hundreds of pins on it and stuff that a guy's doing for you, there's bound to be something, you know. So thankfully this was a very easy one to find and fix, and the rest of the harness is just great. It's been great quality, exactly what I wanted. Just for your information, I would always go with an Oem oil filter. This is an off-brand, this is a cheapo. I mean, this thing is like $3 or $4. Go with a Oem oil filter always, because they are designed to slightly different specs and could have some different features on them that you wouldn't think about. But yeah, definitely go with, for GM, go with AC Delco stuff. These torque readings here for AC compressor to front nuts, it says 74 foot-pounds. I've never found that, and I tried tightening up what I thought it was to 74 foot-pounds, and it stripped it right out. So I'm not sure what this is for, but even your torques might be messed up. This here is a new computer that I bought because I thought that the computer was having issues. Turns out it was a harness problem. In most cases, I'm going to say that the computers are pretty stable, and you're likely looking at a connector issue. My connector issue was that when I was probing a connector for the purposes of building the harness and pinning it out, I shoved the probes into the connector and ended up bending the connector blades back so far that it caused intermittent connections and would not give me a solid connection. That and all computers are not made the same. The pinouts on computers can be different from car to car, so the best thing to do is buy the subscription online to what is it, DIY Auto or something. I'll put the website on the screen and in the description here, and find the actual pinouts of the exact car that computer came from if you do have to use it, because they do differ every year. I'm not sure what material this exhaust gasket here is, but I found it's more of a one-time use, and it's likely to break after the first time. These guys here seem to be more reusable. This is just representative of many parts, but you can rent different pullers from auto parts stores. I wouldn't do that for a thing on this engine. This is a valve spring clamp here, and these things, they work, but they're very difficult to use. Just get a nice valve spring clamp to remove your cylinder head valve springs with. The other pullers that are bad from auto parts stores would be for the supercharger pulley and for the balancer pulley. I would not rent stuff from parts stores. I would buy specialty parts to get those off if you ever have to. It's not worth screwing up so much stuff. There might be good balancer pulley pullers at the auto parts store, but I never used one. I used a different puller that I didn't know at the time was not meant for this, and I could have bent my balancer, but it is what it is. So enough said about all the bad products. Now for the big surprise bad product at the end. Surprise, it's me. Or Metaphorically, it's anybody on the internet telling you what to do and how to do it. Don't trust forums. Don't trust other people. Figure out things for yourself and call manufacturers about their parts and ask them how to use them and how to use them best. They're going to know how to apply them best. Even I've spread misinformation here and there. However, I've corrected everything that I've spread. Not everybody does that, and forum posts don't always get the attention they deserve. But yeah, just be careful about information and incorrect stuff out there, and rumors and myths and claims that have no data or experience to back it up. So please let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to make a video on stuff that I've had a lot of success with and liked. Also let me know if you have some similar experience with bad parts like these that you'd like me to cover in a future video. And let me know if I got any of the stuff wrong or if any of these parts work for you, please, down below. Thank you for watching, my Fiero friends, and remember, if you don't like it, don't watch it. See ya.